Welcome to the Story King, where every tale rules supreme. The storm hadn't been forecasted. Neither had the betrayal. Lyra stumbled through the whipping rain, her white dress, the one she'd worn for tonight's mating ceremony, now torn and muddy. Blood trickled from her temple where Marcus, her supposed fated mate, had struck her. His words still echoed in her skull like shattered glass. Did you really think an alpha would bond with a worthless omega like you? The rejection burned through her chest worse than any physical wound, the severed mate bond leaving a gaping hole where warmth once lived. She'd felt it snap the moment he spoke the ritual words, surrounded by the entire Silvermoon pack, their eyes filled with pity or contempt, she couldn't tell which stung more. Thunder cracked overhead as Lyra's bare feet slipped on wet leaves. She didn't know where she was running, only that she had to get away. Away from Marcus's cruel laughter. Away from her pack's judging stares. Away from the humiliation of being rejected in front of everyone she'd ever known. The forest grew denser, darker. Rain pelted her skin like needles. Through her blurred vision, she spotted a cave entrance, a black mouth in the hillside. Without hesitation, she plunged inside. The sudden absence of rain felt like a vacuum. Lyra collapsed against the cave wall, her body racked with sobs. The rejection bond throbbed in her chest, a constant reminder of her worthlessness. Omegas were supposed to be cherished, protected. But she'd been cast aside like garbage. That's when she heard it, a low, warning growl that turned her blood to ice. Lyra's head snapped up. In the depths of the cave, 12 pairs of eyes glowed in the darkness. Wolf eyes. Large wolf eyes. Her breath caught. She'd stumbled into a wolf den. The creatures emerged slowly from the shadows, and Lyra's heart nearly stopped. These weren't ordinary wolves. They were massive, easily twice the size of normal pack wolves, their fur ranging from midnight black to silver gray. But what terrified her most was their scent, wild, untamed, and distinctly alpha. Rogue alphas. 12 of them. Lyra pressed herself against the cave wall, her omega instinct screaming at her to submit, to flee, to do anything but stay frozen. Stories of rogue packs flashed through her mind, tales of savage wolves who'd lost their humanity, who killed without mercy. The largest wolf, pure black with a white blaze across its chest, stepped forward. Its eyes, silver like moonlight, locked onto hers with an intensity that stole her breath. The wolf's nostrils flared, scenting her, and Lyra knew it could smell everything, her fear, her pain, the fresh rejection wound in her soul. She waited for the attack. It never came. Instead, the black wolf lowered its massive head and released a soft whine, a sound of concern, not aggression. The other wolves surrounded her, but not in a threatening circle. They formed a protective barrier between her and the cave entrance, blocking the wind and rain. What? Lyra whispered, confusion cutting through her terror. The black wolf moved closer, its body radiating heat. Slowly, carefully, it lay down beside her, pressing its warm fur against her shivering body. One by one, the other wolves followed suit, creating a cocoon of warmth around her. They were sheltering her. Lyra's mind reeled. This defied everything she'd been taught about rogues. Yet here she was, surrounded by 12 alpha wolves who should have torn her apart, and instead they were keeping her warm. The black wolf's steady heartbeat thrummed against her side, oddly soothing. Exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. The rejection, the running, the fear, it all caught up at once. Despite the impossibility of her situation, despite every survival instinct telling her to stay alert, Lyra's eyes grew heavy. The warmth of the wolves, their protective presence, lulled her toward sleep. The last thing she felt before darkness claimed her was the black wolf's tail curling around her waist. Lyra woke to sunlight streaming through the cave entrance and the scent of pine and morning dew. Her body ached, but the throbbing in her chest had dulled to a manageable pain. She blinked, memories of the previous night flooding back. The wolves. The 12 alpha wolves who should have killed her, but instead. She sat up quickly, looking around. The cave was empty except for her. Had it been a hallucination? A fevered dream brought on by rejection sickness. Then she heard voices outside. Human voices. Lyra stood on shaky legs and moved to the entrance. What she saw made her heart stop for the second time in 12 hours. 12 men stood in the clearing before the cave. No, not just men. Warriors. Their builds spoke of deadly strength, their postures radiating authority. Each bore the unmistakable aura of an alpha, but controlled, refined. These weren't rogues. These were pack soldiers, and at the center stood the most imposing figure Lyra had ever seen. He was tall, powerfully built, with jet black hair and those same silver eyes from last night. He wore black tactical gear marked with a symbol Lyra recognized with dawning horror, a crown crossed with twin swords. The royal pack insignia. "She's awake," one of the men said, a sandy-haired warrior with kind eyes. The black-haired leader's gaze snapped to the cave entrance. His eyes met Lyra's, and she felt the impact like a physical blow. Power rolled off him in waves, not threatening, but undeniable. This was someone who commanded kingdoms, not just packs. "You're the Alpha King," Lyra breathed, her knees threatening to give out. Kale Nightborn, the Alpha King of the Northern Territories, studied her with those penetrating silver eyes. At 32, he ruled over 17 packs with an iron fist tempered by legendary fairness. Lyra had heard stories about him, a king who'd never taken a lunar, who led his elite guard of 12 on secret missions into rogue territories. "And you," he said, his voice deep and commanding yet somehow gentle, "are the Omega who sheltered with my wolves last night." "I didn't know, I thought you were rogues," Lyra stammered. "We were tracking a genuine rogue pack when the storm hit," another warrior explained, this one with gray-streaked hair. "We shifted to cover more ground. When we found you, you were near death from exposure and rejection sickness." Lyra's hand flew to her chest. They could tell. Of course they could tell. Kale took a step closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "Who rejected you?" The question was soft but held an edge of steel. Lyra found herself answering before she could think. "Marcus Thorne, Alpha of the Silvermoon Pack. He, at our mating ceremony, he." She couldn't finish. The humiliation was too fresh. Something dangerous flashed in Kale's eyes. Marcus Thorne rejected his fated mate publicly. At the ceremony, Lyra nodded, unable to speak around the lump in her throat. The 12 warriors exchanged dark looks. The sandy-haired one cracked his knuckles. "That's a violation of the ancient laws, Your Majesty. Public rejection of a fated Omega." "I know what it is, Garrett," Kale cut him off, his voice deadly quiet. He turned his full attention to Lyra, and she felt pinned by his gaze. "What's your name?" "Lyra, Lyra Ashwood." "Lyra," he repeated, and the way he said it made her name sound like something precious. "You showed no fear when you woke with 12 alpha wolves around you. You didn't run. You accepted shelter when you could have fought or fled. That takes either courage or a death wish." "I was too tired to care anymore," Lyra admitted honestly. Kale's expression softened almost imperceptibly. He took another step forward, close enough now that Lyra had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Up close, he was devastating. Sharp features, a scar along his jawline, and those eyes that seemed to see straight into her soul. "My wolf knew you needed protection," he said quietly. "He's never done that before. Not in 200 years of leading our pack." Lyra's breath hitched. 200, you're ancient." A ghost of a smile touched Kale's lips. "The bloodline runs strong, as does the instinct to protect what's precious." The air between them crackled with something Lyra couldn't name. It wasn't the mate bond that had been severed with Marcus. But it was something powerful, something that made her wolf stir for the first time since the rejection. "Come with us," Kale said suddenly. It wasn't quite a command, wasn't quite a request. "You can't return to Silvermoon, not after a public rejection. You'll be treated as packless, fair game for any alpha who wants to claim you by force." Lyra's blood ran cold. She hadn't thought that far ahead. He was right, without pack protection, she was vulnerable. "Where would I go?" To the royal territory, under my protection. Kale's eyes held hers steadily. I'm invoking the ancient right of sanctuary. As Alpha King, I'm claiming you as a member of the royal pack. Gasps echoed from the 12 warriors. The gray-haired one stepped forward. Your Majesty, the right of sanctuary hasn't been invoked in 50 years. It requires. I know what it requires, River, Kale said without looking away from Lyra. It requires me to take personal responsibility for the sheltered wolf, to protect them as my own, to answer for their actions as if they were my blood. It's the first step toward claiming a Luna, Garrett added quietly. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Kale's jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. It's also the only way to keep her safe from Marcus and any other Alpha who might see a rejected Omega as easy prey. The choice is yours, Lyra. Stay here and take your chances, or come with us to the royal territory. Lyra's mind spun. This was insane. The Alpha King, the most powerful wolf in the Northern Territories, was offering her sanctuary. Personal protection. But the implication was clear. This wasn't just about safety. The right of sanctuary was the first formal step in a bonding process between an alpha and a potential mate. She looked into Kale's eyes and saw something that made her heart race, not pity, not obligation, but genuine concern. And underneath it, carefully controlled but unmistakable, was a hunger that had nothing to do with violence. Why? She whispered. Why would you do this for a worthless Omega? Kale's hand came up, and Lyra flinched instinctively, but his touch was impossibly gentle as his fingers tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his gaze. You are not worthless, he said, each word precise and fierce. Marcus Thorne is a fool who couldn't recognize treasure when the moon goddess herself placed it in his hands. His loss is not your shame to bear. Something in Lyra's chest cracked open, not the bond wound, but something deeper. Tears spilled down her cheeks before she could stop them. Kale's thumb brushed them away with surprising tenderness. Come with me, Lyra. Let me show you what it means to be truly valued. Let me show you what an Omega deserves. I don't understand, Lyra choked out. You don't even know me. No, Kale agreed, his silver eyes intense. But my wolf does. He claimed you as ours the moment we scented your pain. And I've learned to trust his judgment above all else. The 12 warriors watched in silence, witnesses to something that felt monumental. Lyra could barely breathe under the weight of the moment. She thought of Silvermoon, of Marcus's cruelty, of the life she'd lost. Then she thought of these 12 wolves who'd sheltered her in her darkest hour, of this powerful king who looked at her like she was worth protecting, worth claiming. Okay, she whispered, I'll come with you. Kale's eyes flared with something triumphant and possessive. Then by the ancient laws and the power vested in me as Alpha King, I declare Lyra Ashwood under my personal protection. From this moment forward, she is a member of the royal pack. Anyone who wishes her harm will answer to me. His voice rang with absolute authority, and Lyra felt the words settle into her bones like a vow. The 12 warriors dropped to one knee in acknowledgement, their fists over their hearts. Kale held out his hand to her. Are you ready? Lyra placed her hand in his, feeling the strength and warmth of his grip. Yes. As they walked from the cave into the morning light, Lyra glanced back once at the place where her old life had ended and something new had begun. She didn't know what the future held, didn't know if she could ever trust her heart to another Alpha. But as Kale's thumb stroked reassuring circles on the back of her hand, his powerful presence a shield at her side, she felt the first flutter of something dangerous. Hope. They had walked for perhaps 10 minutes, the 12 warriors forming a protective formation around them, when Kale suddenly stopped. His body went rigid, his nostrils flaring. What is it? River asked, instantly alert. Blood, Kale said darkly. Fresh blood, and another scent I recognize. Lyra's stomach dropped. Marcus. Kale's eyes flashed dangerously, his alpha power rolling out like a thunderstorm. He followed you. The fool actually followed you onto neutral territory. Before anyone could respond, Marcus Thorne emerged from the tree line with 6 of his warriors. His eyes locked onto Lyra, blazing with possessive rage. "There you are, you ungrateful little—" He stopped short when he saw who Lyra was standing with. His face went pale. "Your Majesty, I didn't realize that you were stalking a wolf under my protection." Cale's voice was soft, lethal. He stepped in front of Lyra, blocking her from Marcus's view. "Or that you were about to violate the ancient right of sanctuary." Marcus's jaw clenched. "She's mine to deal with. I rejected her properly." "You rejected her cruelly and publicly, in violation of the respect owed to any Omega," Cale corrected. "And the moment I claimed her under sanctuary, she ceased to be any concern of yours. She's still Silvermoon born." "She is mine now," Cale snarled, and the force of his alpha command drove Marcus and his warriors to their knees. "You gave up any right to her when you rejected her. She's royal pack. My wolf has claimed her. Do you understand what that means?" Marcus's eyes widened with understanding and horror. "You're going to make her your Luna." The statement hung in the air like a blade. Cale didn't confirm or deny it, but the possessive way he stood between Marcus and Lyra spoke volumes. "Leave," Cale commanded, "before I forget you're a pack alpha and treat you like the rogue you're acting like." Marcus's face twisted with fury, but he was powerless against the Alpha King's command. As he and his warriors retreated, he shot Lyra one last look, and what she saw in his eyes made her blood run cold. Pure, murderous hatred. When they were gone, Cale turned to Lyra. His eyes had softened again, but she could see the predatory gleam underneath, the wolf who'd just claimed her publicly, irrevocably. "You're safe now," he said, his hand cupping her cheek with that same maddening gentleness. "I swear it." But as they continued their journey to the royal territory, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus's parting look had promised something dark. And when they crested the final hill and she saw the massive royal compound sprawling before them, a fortress of stone and power, she realized her life had just become infinitely more complicated. Because inside those walls, a beautiful woman with ice blue eyes stood waiting, her expression arctic as she watched the Alpha King approach with an Omega at his side. Cale's hand tightened almost imperceptibly on Lyra's, and he leaned down to whisper in her ear, his breath warm against her skin. "Whatever happens next, trust me. Can you do that?" Lyra looked up at this powerful, mysterious king who'd sheltered her, claimed her, and defended her within the span of a single morning. At the compound gates, she could see the ice-eyed woman beginning to descend the steps, her movements predatory and deliberate. "I'll try," Lyra whispered back. Cale's smile was small but genuine. "That's all I ask." But as they passed through the gates into the royal territory, as dozens of wolves stopped to stare at the Omega the Alpha King had brought home, as the ice-eyed woman's hatred became almost palpable, Lyra couldn't help but wonder. What had she just walked into? And why did the woman's scent carry the unmistakable mark of someone who'd been very close to Cale, someone who clearly believed she had a claim on the Alpha King? The woman reached them, her smile sharp as broken glass. "Cale, darling," she purred. "You didn't tell me you were bringing home a pet." Cale's expression went cold. "Selene, meet Lyra Ashwood, my future Luna." And as Selene's face transformed from shock to rage, as the entire compound erupted into stunned whispers, as Lyra felt the full weight of what Cale had just publicly declared settle onto her shoulders, she realized that surviving Marcus's rejection might have been the easy part. Thank you for reading The Story King, where every tale rules supreme. Subscribe for more epic stories.